Welcome to the Start Somewhere podcast, the show where we empower females through mindset and manifestation. My name is Isabel Prestia and I'm your host. Every Monday, I inspire you with an episode to show you how to attract your dream life. Make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. It's time to start somewhere together. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Start Somewhere, the podcast. That sounded very serious, but this is an episode where we're going to be talking about a topic that I actually kind of spoke a bit about in our last episode, and that is fear. That is turning your pain into pleasure. I think this is such a unique skill to have, and it's actually so simple. When I mapped out what it is I actually wanted to speak about in this episode, there are only 3 mind hacks I'm going to share with you. So let's go straight into this because this is going to be short, sharp, and shiny. I already have a feeling. The first step, the first thing you're going to have to do is to slow down. To go fast, we have to go slow. This is something I've been saying for a long time. I reckon I've been saying on the podcast for a bit as well. In order to go fast, we have to slow down. Yeah, we are going to cultivate momentum, but rest is a part of the plan. Rest is productive. Allow yourself this time to simply be. The reason I share this is because it gives your mind time to reason. It allows your physical body and also your mental clarity to calm, to chill, to find the solution. And this is such a powerful, powerful piece because a calm mind is going to be able to see a situation for what it is. You're going to be able to make a response, a decision that is proactive, not reactive. How many times do we get a message and it really sparks us up the wrong way? And we want to reply instantly with a really hasteful and reactive and just something that we're most likely going to regret after. That is being reactive. Whereas instead, if we can come from a calm space, we are allowing the space to process what has just happened, what has just come through. You're going to respond in a way that you're probably most likely going to be way more proud about. So allowing yourself space to find the solution, let that be your driving force because it can be, we do just want to act on things so impulsively, so in the moment because there's feelings getting in the way. There's feelings crowding our judgment. And I know I speak a lot on trusting that feeling opposed to that logic. But at the same time, allow that feeling to come from a really healthy, clean space, not from a space of where your ego is hurt, you're bruised, your feelings are hurt, whatever it may be. This is going to allow you to think clearly and also calmly. Being clear and calm is going to get you extremely far in life, opposed to always being clouded, always being filled with judgment and self-doubt and comparison and insert every out there else under the sun. And then having a sense of calm around you, calm is the ultimate superpower. The calm person in the room is most likely either who we want to be or who we want to gravitate towards. We are not going to want to gravitate towards somebody who is aggressive and yelling and just all over the place and gives off a very uneasy, unsettling energy. They're very just in your face. We don't really want to be around that type of person. Maybe you do, but I feel you and I, that's not really our flavor. That's not really our jam. We want to be around the person who makes us feel some kind of good feeling. They give us, a really good vibe. They give us this really beautiful, safe space for us to be around. We feel calm in their presence. I think the best compliment to receive is when people compliment your energy and your presence, and it's not based on, a physical or an appearance or a possession that you have or, what it is that you do. It's based on who you're being, right? And I spoke about this a lot in a recent episode, actually. When you can cultivate that within, it just gives you this, it's empowering, right? It's so empowering because it's something you have cultivated within you and it's something that no one can take away from you. No one can take that energy that you have cultivated and you're now portraying and living. No one can snatch that from you. Yeah, people can copy your hair and your clothes and, what you say and how you act and what you do, but they can't be you. they can try, but like it's gonna come off as they're not being themselves, and you can kind of spot that from a mile away when somebody's trying to be someone else. Anyway, tangent. But be calm, be clear. I feel like I have to say be cool, calm, and collected. I have a free meditation for those of you who aren't in any of my online programs. I share pretty much meditations in all my programs. I know in the Start Somewhere project, my latest online program, so many of you guys are loving the meditations, which makes me so happy. So if you're wanting the Start Somewhere project, the link for that would be in the show notes. I've chatted a bit about that in the podcast as well. That's like such a perfect step into this whole entire world. It's not a business course. It's all on the fundamentals, like the starting steps that really helped me 2 years ago. There's 4 topics: mindset, manifest, magnetic energy, and money. So if you're sick and tired of not making enough money, if you want to be way more magnetic, if you really want to master the hell out of your mindset, and you want to just enhance your manifestations in such a way where you never thought possible, this is the course that's going to give all of that for you. If you're like, I'm fine making the same amount of money, don't care about my manifestations or my mindset, it's not for you. So make that discernment yourself, but it's such a perfect entryway into this whole world. If you love the podcast content, you're going to love the course. So the reason I'm sharing this is because I have 4 super powerful meditations in there that are designed specifically for each of those things. So to help you call about and bring about more money, to help you to manifest to enhance your manifestations even more, like bring them in like that, essentially like that. If you've been tuning in for a while, if you're new to my world, I do have such a strong magnetic energy where I can honestly think of something and it really comes back into my life very quickly. I need to be careful with that because sometimes I manifest things that I don't really want anymore, but like that just shows how powerful what I teach you is, because everything I teach you is everything I do. And then, if you're like, I'm cool having a mindset like this, I don't want to grow it, then it's not for you. So the Start Somewhere project is, it's my pride and joy. It's my little baby. And I've been loving sharing with you guys. I've been loving hearing all of your feedback. It's been so astounding. It's been so incredible to see. But I also do have a free guided meditation for those of you who maybe aren't ready yet to invest. So that is linked on my YouTube channel. The link for that as well is in the show notes. So a couple options for you guys to choose from. But number 1 is to slow down. I really feel like saying just slow the F down. Just literally pull back and chill. Number 2 is to accept it. Mindset work right here, guys. This is going to do wonders for you. This is something we must continue to strengthen because think of it as a muscle. Like you go to the gym to build your muscles physically. The same thing goes for your mindset, for your intuition, for your self-discipline, like all these internal things. Like you can't exactly see what determination looks like or what motivation looks like. It's this internal thing like within us, right? And so look at it as a muscle that you're strengthening, that you're building upon. I did not used to be so driven and so disciplined and so like can wake up and go to the gym and do all the things and this and that and this and that. Like that took time to build, right? Like I wasn't just born one day and was like doing those things, or I didn't just quit my job and was able to do all those things. Like it was trial and error. It was like figuring out when I work best doing what makes me feel good, what makes me feel like energized, and like really tapping into that. And it's a muscle. Like it's doing it on the days where you don't want to do it. I believe that's where it counts the most because you are proving to yourself that you can do it. Like when I wake up sometimes and I just no bone in my body wants to go to the gym and get out of bed, but I know I'm fine to do so. I'm just making an excuse. That is where it's like I have this like inner catalog, like inner dialogue in my head where it's like, this is where it counts the most because you are proving to yourself that you are more than just like the chatter and the thoughts that's going on up in your mind, but you are proving to yourself like through action, you're showing yourself like it's you v you. This has been such a big theme actually as well. Like let your journey, whatever it is you're doing in life right now, it's personal. Like we're going to get serious here. Look at it in this regard. It's personal. It's not so you can show off. It's not so you can post on Instagram. It's not so you can compare to somebody else. So you can say, oh, well, I did this, so blah, blah, blah. Like we're leaving all of that like so beyond in the past. It's to prove to yourself. because that is just, it's only going to give you so many good things in return. Like not only your self-discipline, like we've been saying here, like building upon your mental strength, but your self-trust, your self-love, your self-worth, because you are going to look in the mirror, you're going to see who you are, you're going to be able to reflect on your day, your week, your month, whatever it may be, and be like, I did that. I did those things. And you're going to be so proud of yourself. And that is something that you can't necessarily read in a book. That you can't, like, yeah, this podcast, I hope it inspires you in one way or another. But it's not until that you embody and you really integrate what it is I'm sharing. You take your own inspiration. Maybe it's one thing, maybe it's all the things I say, whatever it may be. It's not until you start to integrate and embody all these learnings that you have and you start to put them into play. The life we live is essentially a game. So think about it as like a show, right? There's no dress rehearsal. We're not in a practice run. You're not waiting till you look a certain way or you have a certain thing, you have certain dollars, you have a certain person, you have a certain car or look. Like there's no practice. Like time is just like moving, right? And so what is it you're waiting for? What is the excuse you're telling yourself? Because awareness is 95%, I believe, of the job done. Because once we are aware, and we have this burning desire, whether it's like on fire, you want to change it so badly, or there's just like, I don't know, like a medium level inkling that you want to change it, you know what needs to be done. Like you always know what you need to do. And if you don't, ask yourself, what is the next thing I need to do? And allow the space for it to come through. Slow down. You always know. Trust me. Like when I go through phases in my life where I'm like, I just don't know what to do, it's because I'm not listening to myself. I'm listening to other people. I'm being a sponge to what other people are doing and saying, and I'm letting that influence me. And sometimes it does involve honing back, taking a step back, going into solitude, really just like spending some one-on-one time with yourself and just check in and be like, what do I want? What am I not saying I want? How many of us have desires and hopes and dreams that we do not feel confident enough to talk about? Okay, maybe you don't need to say it on a podcast, but you don't feel confident enough to voice it even to yourself. Or maybe you do, but you don't feel confident enough to tell it to somebody. The reason I'm saying this is because this was me for so long. I felt like such a phony and such like a who am I to say this, that I wanted to, which is like, it's so cool, I'm living it now. I wanted to be my own boss, have my own online business, work from home, dictate my own hours, do coaching, create content. Like the fact it's like 4:30 and I'm able to pick up my mic and I've already recorded a couple podcasts today. Like the fact that this is my reality is what 2018 Isabel was journaling about for so long. And I was so scared to tell people this is what I wanted because it just felt so foreign and so far-fetched and like, who am I to do this? And like, that's not realistic. And I believe I do have a really good balance of like logic and also feeling in and leaning in. And, you know, I think that it's so important. Like, this is just what serves me. Like, yeah, I'm aware of what's going on in this world and, you know, I'm practical and logical where it needs it. But at the end of the day, like me as a person, I have my head in the clouds. I'm thinking up scenarios and situations that just seem so ridiculous and so far-fetched that I'm like, well, if it's on my heart, it's there for a reason. And like so far, I've made a lot of it come true. I've made a lot of it work. I mean, you get a glimpse of all this in the podcast and, you know, in the Start Somewhere project, like I mentioned before, that's how I make all these things come to fruition, right? It's these tools, it's these resources, it's the magnetic energy and the manifestation and the mindset and the attracting more money. And that's from me strengthening my discipline, my self-motivation. Like I honestly put meditation as what has been the biggest tool in order to become more disciplined, because I'm honestly, like, it's what I say a lot in a lot of my guided meditations for those who have listened, and even just in my content when I talk about it, it's finding your strength in stillness. And like, that's like my tagline for meditating, because, you know, both physically and, you know, not non-physical, tangible and intangible, whatever the opposite of physical is, you are cultivating that. And I won't forget the very first time I did meditation by myself at home, like after I'd learnt it. And it was the hardest thing I did because I was in such a bad place in my life, and then I'd learnt meditation and I had to sit in stillness with all my thoughts running through my mind. And I was like, holy, I hate what I'm seeing right now. But I pushed through. And I knew it was because my higher self was leading the way for me. And a big mantra that I actually have right in front of my eyes right now is that my higher self drives my life. And your higher self is yourself. Your higher self is your intuition. And I really connected deeper to my higher self and my intuition through meditating. But you can do it in so many different ways, like through journaling and affirmations and slowing down, allowing the space. I can't tell you how many times recently, especially, I'm in a very interesting period of my life right now, which I'm actually loving so much. And I've noticed every single time I go for a walk, I love listening to music at the moment on my walks and just really visualizing. And, I have a little skip to my jump, and, I'm just like, I'm in such a good mood. And whenever at some point of my walk, whether I've climbed up a big hill or I'm in a park or something, and I allow myself just to be, and I turn off my music and I just be, and I most likely always get this most like beautiful emotional release come over me. And it's so cool because I know that I have truthfully transitioned in such a way, and I'm really up-leveling in a more tasteful kind of way. Like when I started really up-leveling like this time last year, like it really was huge for me in that whole regard. And it was so like breakdown and breakthroughs. Like it was so full on and so intense, but like not in a bad way at all. I don't want to spend too much time in that feeling, but what I'm getting at here is that there was a big period of my life last year where I really was saying goodbye to this old version of myself. And it was a new thing. Like I'd never really felt what I was feeling. And it was so strange because nothing was really quote unquote bad in my life or wrong, but something just felt off. And, I was chatting to a few girlfriends to really make sense of what this was. And I've actually spoken about this a bit on the podcast. Ebony, she really helped me like realize this. And it was really good like to have her to talk this through. And she made me realize this exact concept. I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And what we came to a conclusion is that I was just leveling up and going to this whole new level. Like how many times do I want to say level? I was going to this whole new reality in my life. And it was the reality that I had been so desiring for so long, like so long. And the thing is, I was essentially mourning this old version of myself. Bear with me, guys. I was mourning this old version of myself that got me to where I was, but that version of myself could no longer come with me to where I was going. So it's like this death and rebirth situation, right? And because I'd never been in that situation before, man, was it heavy. Like 2022 was the heaviest year of my life. Like when I think of 2022, I think of just like a dark gray cloud, but then with like so many rainbows and like little sparks of sunshine coming through, because like everything is a polarity, like everything is opposite. And so that was like a really like profound, I'm going to say, experience and a situation for me. And to be so open and honest, actually like just honestly 4 days ago, I was going for a walk and I just felt like a lot of emotion was bubbling, like it was brewing, right? And I had got to the hill I was climbing up and took my AirPods off and just, I think it's really important just to be. And I was just like being, I was just looking out in the distance and I could just feel so much emotion come up to the surface. And it wasn't until I just kept on walking and walking, I just had this sudden like burst of motivation after I was already so exhausted just to keep on going. I eventually got to like the top, like the very, very highest point. And I could see my whole city in front of me. And so many emotions came up to the surface. And it's so interesting what came up. This complements so perfectly with this episode. It's fear. I was at a point in my life and I could associate it to where I was feeling this time last year, which was so different. It's not even in the same book. You can't even compare in that regard. And I had this fear that I had internalized that it was going to be the same as last year. And I was like, I do not have it in me to go through another year like that again. And I really had to allow myself to feel that. I knew in my gut it wasn't the truth, but I just had to allow myself to feel that emotion. Right? I was learning how to turn my fear into pleasure, essentially. So I was allowing myself to feel these emotions, and we truthfully need to romanticize feeling these unpleasant emotions opposed to just suppressing and pushing them down. Like, that is serving nobody, suppressing and pushing them down. Like, it's only doing you the worst thing it could ever do. So like, don't do that to yourself. And the thing is, I allowed myself to just allow all these emotions to come up to the surface. And then it wasn't until I was like, okay, I've had my moment. What's wrong? What is up? And it's like I really was able to bring it to the light exactly what it was. I had this fear that the same thing was going to happen to me again. And I just think that was a really profound, interesting experience that honestly happened to me 4 days ago. But I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in no by way means the same position that I was in last year. And, you know, we see this quote quite a lot online as well. I'm sure like most of you guys have seen or heard of it, where it's like the scariest place to be right now is if you were in the exact same position last year. So if where you are right now is an exact duplication of where you were last year, like, let that scare you, because we're all about growth here, right? We're all about motivation and self-development and moving forward in life. And I was like, I am no by way means in the same situation as I was this time last year. But I had this fear brewing because maybe there was some kind of similarities that, I don't know, my conscious or subconscious mind was like detecting. And, you know, when we are in experiences, like, we are going to pull upon our memory, like most likely subconsciously, past memories that have been similar, because our brain doesn't want us to be in the unknown, because that is fearful. And our brain wants to keep us safe, right? It has a good intent. It wants to keep us safe. And so, like, as an example, think about relationships. If you've had a really bad relationship and then you meet somebody new and you're fearing, you're associating it with the bad memories of your past, you're most likely going to sabotage that. Or you're most likely not going to want it to happen because you're associating it with something from your past. Whereas if we can like really bring this level of self-awareness to us, which comes from listening to content like this, doing self-development, getting to know ourselves, like, do you know who you actually are in your reflection? Like, that's a whole nother conversation, but getting to know yourself and being like, well, actually, that was just an old story in my life and that no longer serves me. And that is where empowerment comes in. And you can be like, damn, like, I have changed. Like, things are different this time. I am able to trust it. I just think that's really beautiful. So I wasn't expecting to share that story, but clearly it had to be said. And number 3 is turning your pain into pleasure. So I've kind of prefaced this a little bit already. Changing anxiety to excitement. I remember hearing this concept in 2021 on a podcast, actually. And for context, where I was at back then, I had just resigned from one of my jobs. I've resigned from 2 jobs. This is the first job I resigned from. I'm not meant to work for people, clearly. And I was in such an anxious, unpleasant state. And I heard this on a podcast. And I'm like, there actually is a bit of scientific information to this. I'm not going to explain it because I don't really know it properly. But essentially, the emotions of anxiety and excitement are somewhat the same. It's just our brain that internalizes it and labels it as anxiety or excitement. So I'm like, okay, interesting. Let me try this out for a minute here. And I was like, okay, I'm in a point where I'm feeling anxious. I have unfamiliar, everything's unknown. I don't know what's going on, blah, 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 blah. Or I can be like, this is exciting. This is a brand new chapter. Whatever happens next is literally a direct reflection of what I want to happen next. And so I changed the game. I changed my fear into pleasure. And the thing is, this is so powerful because by doing this, you are ultimately changing the outcome of what's to come. Energy is fluid. You know, like I know like a lot of our listeners are really into tarot cards and getting readings from psychics and that kind of thing. Like, energy is so fluid. You can get told one thing, you can pull a card on one thing, and based on your actions, based on your responses and your reactions right now is going to completely dictate the outcome. Right? Like, if you are in the headspace of being like, yep, I'm going to move to London next year and I'm going to work at this job. And you go get a tarot reading and that tarot person picks up on that energy. You're going to move here. You're going to get this job. You're going to meet the love of your life. There you go. And then a month from now, you're like, actually, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to stay here. Your future is literally going to change because you are no longer going to be in that position. But if you are meant to be there, you are never going to ruin something that is for you. And so really let that be like an anchor in you that you are not making the wrong decision ever. Like you are not. If you screw something up, if you make a mistake, if you hurt somebody, yeah, that's probably not a good thing. But just know for some really strange reason that was meant to happen. And I guess I do believe everything happens for a reason, but I just feel death in really unpleasant situations is something we can't explain. And that's like a whole nother conversation. But I just want to preface, like, I don't believe tragic events like that are meant to happen, because I have had people close to me, young ages, pass away. And I'm like, that wasn't meant to happen, right? Like you get mad, you're like, that should not have happened. So everything happens for a reason to an extent, believe what you want, but you are never ruining something for you that is meant for you. So guys, to end it up, I just want to explain, I just want you to see and just to show, like, life is a story. Your life is a story. Like, think of it as a book, right? And when we're going to new chapters, when we're elevating to new levels, we're writing new chapters in our book. We're introducing new characters. Just please make sure you're always the main character. Like, let life revolve around you and your decisions. It's not being selfish. It's not being, the center of attention. Like, it is your world. It's allowed to be your world. So own it as your world and just watch the rest of your life unfold. So I'm going to leave it here. It would mean so much to me if you could please leave a rating and review on whichever podcast platform you choose to tune into. It really helps us boost in the algorithm and reach so many more women just like yourself who choose to tune in to Start Somewhere every single week. We have brand new episodes that go up every Monday. I have so much love for you guys, and I'll chat with you in our next episode. Bye.